This week's episode of the Good Dude, Good Dad podcast is brought to you by BioPro. Use the link down below plus code GDGD upon checkout, along with Hidden House Coffee. Go to hiddenhousecoffee.com and use code GDGD on your checkout to receive a discount. Now, enjoy the show. Hey guys, welcome back to the Good Dude, Good Dad podcast. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Ben.
And we have a special guest on today. His name is Tyler Schwartz. We actually got connected with Tyler back in the day because of Adam, back in the day, like several months ago, because of Adam, when you guys heard that podcast with Adam where he was talking about BioPro, and Ben and I were like so fired up and excited and like, whoa, dude, what's that about? That we started like digging in, and then Adam got us connected with Tyler, and then it's just kind of been a partnership and building a friendship since then. But Tyler is, I wrote stuff down so that I don't mess this up, is the BioPro Business Development Manager. He is the founder and owner of Compound Freedom and Compound Warrior Project. But most importantly, he is a husband and a father and a good dude. Welcome, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah. So like I said, we did that interview with Adam, and he started telling us about like all the awesome benefits he was getting from BioPro. And Ben and I, our bodies are jacked up and a hot mess. And so, especially Ben.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, especially Ben.
My body's definitely a wreck.
And so we're like, oh, we got to check this out. And then it turned into this awesome partnership. And man, we've been stoked. We were talking about it off air, but Ben and I were also talking about it before you hopped on, just the benefits that we're seeing from BioPro and how much we appreciate working with you guys. And we're happy to have you here.
Well, it's good to be here, and it's good to have a couple of good dudes, good dads, on the BioPro team. And I love Adam. We've been following each other, like I'm pretty sure he said on your podcast, for years. And we finally ended up jumping on the call, and he asked me about the BioPro, and one thing led to another. So he's an awesome dude. You guys are talking about how your bodies are jacked up. I can definitely relate. I've had just about every injury that you can have. I've broken both feet. I've had bad knees since I was a kid. I had knee surgery on my LCL last year. I've had 18 back procedures, separated my ribs, separated both shoulders, broken both hands, 3 broken noses, 5 concussions I know about. So it's like, I hear you. And that's why when I started with BioPro, it's like, it literally helps me. Like, it's helped my back. It's helped me recover from surgeries, procedures. And that's why I jumped on board with BioPro, because I had my own company. I still do, where that's what I was doing 100% of the time. And I was supporting BioPro from, a affiliate role. And when they had an opportunity to come on full time, I was like, absolutely. Let's get this to as many people as we can, help as many guys out as we can with a drug-free hormone health optimization tool, because there's a lot of things out there where people are shooting themselves up with synthetic injectables, and it's like, this is truly incredible. BioPro is incredible.
Yeah. No, it's been great, man. I think a lot of people too will just like listen to it and just be like, oh yeah, cool, whatever. They're on it, so they're selling it. And it's funny because you and Adam both did not try to sell it to us. You both simply said, try it. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I think that's been such a great approach. And, the friends that we have that have been on it too, same thing. It's like we weren't trying to sell them. We were just like, dude, just try it. And now they're taking it to their friends. And I've noticed that the most of my recovery, I also haven't been doing my body and BioPro enough justice in the amount of workouts I've been putting in. My focus has kind of been a little different. Family, business, and jujitsu. That's like my fitness right now. And so I know that the product could be even more beneficial to my body the second I start kind of like re-pushing in those other areas. But just the fact that I can train the way I'm training, my clarity, my ability to focus on the amount of stuff I'm doing, I feel like it's just another tool to help optimize myself. And, it's not like this one-stop shop. You still have to like take care of yourself. You still have to diet. You still have to eat proper. You still have to like do all these things. And I think sometimes people are just like, oh, just give me the magic drug.
Ozempic.
Give me the Ozempic of whatever, and now Ozempic's on blast right now. So it's like, people always, you got to take things with a grain of salt. You got to do a combination of several things in order to make yourself the way you want yourself to be. But
Yeah,
100%.
dude. But actually, I kind of want to dive into that a little bit because I remember Adam was telling us that you had was it MCL surgery or
LCO?
LCL surgery?
LCL. Yep. LCL.
Yeah. Tell us about that because, dude, I mean, I went after he told us that and we were like going down that BioPro journey. I obviously hopped on your social media and I went back and started watching those videos of you rehabbing. Because, again, like we were just saying, you have the supplement, but you still got to put in the hard work and bro, you were getting after it. So, like, how was that? How was that? Yeah, how was that? How did that happen?
Yeah. So I had already been taking BioPro. I'd been taking it for, I think, 2 years at the time. But it helps with recovery. That's one of the main things it does. And I tore my LCL doing jiu-jitsu, and surgery wise, the doctor told me that I'd be on crutches for at least 6 weeks. And the day after my surgery, I was out in my gym. I was doing upper body. Like I was on crutches. My brace was completely locked. But one thing I tell people is there's always something you can do. There's always something you can do to get better. Even if you're in a body cast, you can read, you can get smarter, you can obtain knowledge. There's always something that you can do. And people ask me all the time, like, how'd you get to where you're at? I've never quit. I show up every day. And even if I'm focusing on recovery, there's something you can do. So back to my knee, I showed up every single day. I started doing PT. And on week 4, I went back for my check-in and the doctor's like, yeah, you can start walking. You can get rid of the crutches, wean off the crutches over the next couple of days. Of course, that day I ditched the crutches. And the next day I was at PT, walking, going over cones. I was standing on my injured leg, throwing a medicine ball against a trampoline, doing everything, under supervision. Trying to make sure I'm not pushing it too far, because when you toe that line, sometimes you find it, but it helped me recover. And I also used it for my 17th and 18th back procedure. And the only thing that was really different from those procedures was I had BioPro and I recovered quicker. I felt better, less pain, and the stuff works. And it works because it is the end result of human growth hormone, which is growth factors. And it helps you recover, helps with energy, helps with building muscle, burning fat, metabolism, cognitive function, your skin, your hair, like the list goes on. And it's an incredible supplement. It's not, a prescription. You don't inject it. You use it sublingually. And you were talking a little bit ago, Ben, about how people are skeptical. I was one of them. I get it. I was completely skeptical when our founder reached out to me, because that's how I started the company. They saw my social media and wanted to send me some product and help me promote it. And I was like, okay, well, I'll try it, but I only promote products I truly believe in. And his response was, I wouldn't have it any other way. And so I'm like, okay, I didn't really expect anything of it. I remember starting to take it. The tingling under my tongue got me by surprise. But day five, I was like, okay, I feel it. The first thing I felt was an increase in energy and cognitive function. And at that time, I was in a bulking phase. I was trying to put on some muscle. And 3 or 4 months in, I had to go up in t-shirt sizes. I have a reel on my social media about that, like where I'm like, all of these shirts right here do not fit anymore. I had to buy these shirts because they're too tight. And so it's just been incredible for me. My father, who's 71, is on BioPro. My brother, who's 44, is on BioPro. And like, I literally moved my family from Arizona to here in Tampa, Florida, because I believe in BioPro. I wouldn't have my father, my brother, my wife is on it. I wouldn't have my family members on it if I didn't believe in it. Like, it's legit.
I know. I think I don't want to like shift us gears, but I kind of want to, because one of the things we like to do on this podcast is like, not everyone has that ability to just not quit like you do. I think a lot of people think they do, but when it actually comes to it, their back is against the wall. They don't got it, right? And that's not a dig at anyone. That's just the truth. And I would love for you to just be able to like kind of take us back a little bit so we can get to know, and our audience can get to know who you are and how did you get that that trait and that quality in you to not quit?
Yeah, I think it really stems from my brother and my father, the men who I grew up around. My dad started a business and is still a business owner, and his work ethic my entire childhood, just watching how hard he worked. And my brother, he's actually 9 years older than me. His work ethic, him constantly getting into the gym, and growing up, he's my hero. He put his hat on backwards. I put my hat on backwards. I would go and work out with him. I would go at 5 a.m. and work out with my brother when he was in high school. So I started working out when I was 5 years old. Like, I remember going to Lambeau Field with my family, and my grandpa was there, and I was like, I don't even remember how old, in between 5 and 10. And my grandpa started doing push-ups in the parking lot of Lambeau Field while everyone else is out there like crushing beers. And so I'm, however old, doing push-ups. And so I will say that I was very fortunate to have that drive kind of built into me, and I was raised around that. But I will also say it's not easy. I have a lot of people who I think look at me and think that I wake up every day and I'm like, oh, let's go work out. And that is the furthest thing from the case. Like, I could count on my hands the last couple of months, the days that I woke up at 5 a.m. was like, let's go get a workout in. Over 90% of the time, I don't want to do it. But where people fall short is they don't have a strong enough why. And my why always is to be the best husband and the best father possible. Before I even met my wife, I wanted to be the best husband and father possible. I had that in my head, and I didn't get married until I was 33, so a lot older than most people. And that was on purpose, not because I wanted to wait until I was 33, but I wanted to wait until I found the right woman. And everyone in my family, has been divorced, and I've seen what that does to a family, and they got married too early. It's just that simple. And to me, marriage is a bond between man, woman, and God. And it's a bond that I never want to break. And so I wanted to be very careful when choosing my wife and my life partner. And when I found my wife, I proposed after 6 months. I knew. And so it took me a long time to pop the question, but I knew. And so I have always had that why. And even before I met my wife and before I became a father, I always wanted to be the best protector, provider, husband, and father I could be. And when my daughter wakes up in the morning, if I'm out there working out, she comes and sits out in the gym with me and watches me work out. And I tell you, that is the only motivation I need right there.
That's so awesome. Yeah, man. I've shared this a few times on the podcast, but there's been times where like younger guys will come to me and they're like, I want to get married, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, cool, that's awesome, man. Like, that's great. But why don't you focus on being the kind of man that the kind of woman you would want to marry would want to marry? And it sounds like that was your focus early on, which is super cool to hear, because it seems like the more guys that we talk to that are having like really awesome marriages are like the ones that are going, hey man, I gotta put in the work on myself before anything else. And that's super encouraging to hear.
Yeah. I mean, you said something that for a long time, I was trying to find my dream woman, and for years. And when there was a shift, I literally flipped a switch and I said, stop trying to find your dream woman. Focus on being your dream woman's dream man. What would that guy do? And a couple of months after I did that, my wife sent me a DM. And that's how we met, like on Instagram. Like, I'm not kidding. It's hilarious. It's 100% God, because she actually is Canadian. She was living in Canada. So the fact that she found my page, was following me for a while, and then one day decided to send me a DM, and like, it's incredible. Like, I finally was focusing on being my dream woman's dream man. And after a couple of months of putting that in, and I'm not saying to any of you guys out there, just do that for a couple of months. Like, God's plan is way greater than your own. I promise you. But that is a piece of advice I would say, is stop trying to find your dream woman. Just focus on being her dream man.
Dude, I love that. And I love the fact that she slid into your DMs. That is the best thing ever.
Yeah, we still laugh about that all the time. Yeah.
A part of me sometimes wishes I got to. My wife and I met, 2013, so like a little before how like popular dating sites and apps and stuff were. Like, I didn't know, I never was on a dating app before. So like when we hear friends like meet people through like one of the apps or something. I'm like, oh, is that the one that you have to like the girl has the power, or is that like you swipe left? Like, how does all these things work? I kind of wish her and I like would have got to like meet like that. And Instagram wasn't like you weren't DMing people back then, you know. But sometimes I wish I would have, because I would have for sure slid into her DMs 100%.
There you go. Yeah, back then Instagram was like just picture, wasn't it? Like,
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Hey guys, this is Jordan with Good Dude, Good Dad. Quick break. I just want to thank our sponsors. The first one being BioPro. The link is down below. Use code GDGD. Ben and I have been on for about a month now, and it goes under your tongue in the morning. There's a night version to help you sleep a little bit better. But I tell you what, I get home, and for the first time in a while, I actually have some energy to hang out with my kids, to play, to get my workout in, and the best part of all, to hang out with my wife at the end of the night and not feel utterly exhausted. So go check out the link down below. Next, Hidden House Coffee. Go to hiddenhousecoffee.com, get a bag or 2 or 10, and use the code GDGD for a discount on that. I want to say thank you to Rode for all this amazing equipment and the sound quality. And last but not least, go check out gooddudegoodDad.com. Get yourself some sweet merch. Sign up from our emails. And please like, share, and subscribe. It's all because of you guys that we are growing. We're excited to bring on more guests and serve you the best that we can. So remember, be a good dude, be a good dad. Get back to the show. I mean, you built that consistency, and what were you doing? I mean, I know what you were doing, but can you explain to us what you were doing before you decided to move out to Florida with BioPro? Like, what was, explain that part of your business for a little bit, just to give a little background.
yeah, absolutely. So I, had my training facility, which was right on my property. I call it the compound out there in Arizona, and I had 1,000 square foot private training facility. So I would work with a wide variety of people, everyone from tier 1 operators, Navy SEALs, former DevGru guys, Army Rangers, Green Berets, to law enforcement, SWAT officers, worked with U.S. Marshals Special Operations Groups, business professionals, and even a teenage equestrian girl. So I've worked with a lot of different people, and really one of my specialties is helping these guys, one, injury prevention, but most of them, if they've been working for a while, or even if they're a business professional, have injuries. And I already told you guys all the injuries I've had. And when I was going through those, I was like, man, why do I keep getting injured? Why does this keep happening? And I know now that it's because I had to go through that to be able to help other people through those same injuries. It's one thing to read a book about, a herniated disc or a broken foot or a separated shoulder, but to have rehabilitated yourself and felt that pain, felt that depression, and get stronger on the other side of it is a completely different beast. So I know now that was part of God's plan for me, is to have all these injuries so that I can help other people. And that's one of my, specialties. I do a lot of tactical type training, but really what I do is I focus on strengthening weak links, because as Louis Simmons said, who was a famous strength and conditioning coach who passed away, weak things break. So I want to make sure that there's no weak links on your entire kinetic chain, all the way from your feet up to your head. And we strengthen those weak links.
How was it going through when you were having all those different back surgeries and going through all these, you can go into depth about how it happened if you want to. If not, just how was that recovery process mentally? Like, what are some things that you think you learned from those moments? Like you said, there's definitely part of God's plan looking back at it now. And right. And looking back, hindsight, it's really easy to go, oh, okay, now I see why I went through all that kind of stuff. And these are the things that I learned from it. But it's really hard when you're in that moment, when you're in like, you're at the valley of that valley, and you're looking at that mountain going, okay, I got to get back up there. What was that? Take us through that journey a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, my back, it's been over a decade, with my back. And as I mentioned, I've had bad knees since I was a kid. So I am very familiar with pain. And it took me a long time to just get used to that pain. And I could talk about that for a while, but I think what would be better to talk about is the depression that I went through. And I went through some extremely, extremely dark times. I would try and counter that pain with alcohol. And, I went through a very horrible dark time in my life where I was drinking insane amounts of alcohol. I was addicted to Adderall. And then I would, come home and I'd smoke weed at night to try and come down. And then I'd wake up the next morning, I'd pop an Adderall and do it all over again. And it got so bad. And I got to such a dark place that I tried to take my own life. And I will say I should not be here. Like I literally loaded my pistol. I put the gun in my head and I pulled the trigger and it did not go off.
Oh, shoot.
There was a dent in the primer. And like every time I talk about this, I can still hear it was the loudest click in the world. And God gave me a second chance. So going back to talking about my why, every day I try and earn it. That's why I'm, do things like coming on your podcast and trying to help as many people as I can, because I should not be here. And God gave me a second chance. And I'm so grateful for every single day. It doesn't mean that every day is all sunshine and rainbows, but I try and replace any of that negativity with gratitude. Anytime that I wake up and I'm like, oh, I don't want to work out. No, I get to work out. I have the opportunity to work out. I don't want to go for a run. I get to go for a run. I have both my legs. I have the ability to go for a run. I woke up today. One thing I say every single day is thank you, God, for one more day. And so, it's been a dark journey, but I know that that was all so that I could be here and find the light. And I found God again when I was going through those dark times. One thing that was different is I lost my faith. I lost my faith for a long time. And I am grateful that God gave me a second chance to be saved and to help share his word and, spread the light.
Yeah. Dude, if you don't mind, I think there's, again, as we're experiencing, and Jordan and I are going to sound like a broken freaking record at some points, but the more of these conversations we're having, the more and more we're like just starting to hear and understand more that the depression and the stuff that happens behind closed doors to a lot of men specific, like obviously, yes, the world deals with, but men specific, man, I would have never guessed how many of us are dealing with these things and going through these things. And I think, dude, our why for this podcast is like, Jordan and I haven't talked about it. I'm just saying it out loud for the first time, but like, I feel like our why for this podcast is like slowly been just shifting towards like, yeah, we want good dudes and good dads and everything that encompasses, but it's become more and more just a place where men can share and others can hear, right? Because we had a guest say it recently, but he said, when you see another guy going through it, you're essentially giving them permission to also go through it. Like that vulnerability, that ability to release and be able to admit, like, hey guys, like I don't got it figured out right now. I don't know what I'm doing right now. I don't. Is God real? Am I going to find my dream woman? Am I going to be a good dad because I had a deadbeat dad? Like all these things we're just realizing is just like, it's not uncommon. It's actually common. And the opposite of that, the lack of going through certain things is uncommon. And if you could like just share kind of, because I also think people have, just like with BioPro or any other product, they have this notion that the second you had that second chance that your life just instantly clicked, right? Like they don't, I think people think, especially when they hear about Christians, they're like, nope, he's saved, praise Jesus, he's perfect. Like, and it's funny because we laugh out because, the three of us in this room have dealt with so many different things in our lives and I just think there's just this misconception that we're missing the mark so big on, yes, we decided to dedicate our lives to the Lord and to live a certain lifestyle that shows what it's like to be a follower of Jesus. But there's so many moments throughout my life that I have to be like, yo, dude, are you actually living the way you're saying you're living? And if not, we need to fix it. We need to readjust. We need to recalibrate. I have systems and tools and checks and balances in my own life that hold me accountable to my faith. And so I can be the man that I say I am. I can be the husband, the dad, the business owner, the friend. I'm rambling, but I'm passionate about like us Christian men sharing the tools that we use to keep ourselves in line and in check and to grow. Walk us through like the second you had that chance.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it wasn't like that was just done and over after that happened. I I ended up just that night crying myself to sleep. But one thing that I feel like I'm just called to say right now is anyone who's out there struggling, please ask for help. It's one thing that I wish I would have done. I hid it from everyone. My family had no idea what I was going through. My friends had no idea what I was going through. And before I went through that depression and that suicide attempt, I thought that suicide was the most selfish thing in the world. I didn't understand it. And I can tell you, and I've had this conversation with family members now in explaining if you haven't felt it, you don't understand it. I knew I shouldn't be feeling like that. I knew like I had so much hate for myself and I had so much hate just in general. And it's because I didn't have Christ in my heart. And to some extent, the person that I was being, I still don't like that guy. I wasn't completely wrong in hating that version of myself. But taking your own life is never the answer. And I wish I would have reached out and told people like I'm struggling. And I think people kind of knew I wasn't doing well, but they had no idea. I tried to take my own life and it all came out actually when I was at my parents' house and we were watching a movie. It was a Bradley Cooper movie and I can't remember what it's called, but he ends up taking his own life. And as he's going through this progression, like my heart was pumping. It was a couple of weeks after I had my attempt. And as I'm watching this, I'm like, is he going to kill himself? And like, I was sweating. My heart was pumping. I feel like I could hear and he ends up, taking his own life. I think he hangs himself. And I like snapped. I started crying and I was like, why are we watching this movie? Like I started cursing and like I'm sitting there with my parents and they're like, what's going on? And I broke down. I cried. I told them everything. And that's really when I started my road to recovery. Because I finally let it out. If you have a problem, the first step is admitting it. And I finally talked about it. But it took a long time for me to really feel that weight lifted. And I remember that moment. I was actually out in Virginia Beach. I was working with Dom Rosso, who's a former DevGru guy, former SEAL Team 6 guy. And we're working together and I was helping with this fitness program and we're doing a lot of combatives training and working with clients and going to the range, doing all this stuff. And he asked me one day if he was going to go to the church and go to confession with his dad and his oldest son. And he asked me if I wanted to go. And I was like, yes. And I went to confession for the first time in well over a decade. And I went in there, talked to the priest, and I said everything. My voice was shaking. I was crying. And after I got out of confession, I went to the pew to do my penance and Dom kind of, tapped me on the shoulder and he handed me his rosary. It's a tactical warrior rosary. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. He's like, no, that's yours. And he gave me that. And I did my penance. I prayed and I still have the rosary. It's one of my most cherished items. And I walked into that church and I remember this weight was lifted and it was like my soul was cleansed. I felt light. I felt years of just darkness and sludge released. I felt bright. I just felt the grace of God. And that was the moment where I was like, thank you, Lord. And his dad actually gave me, I never really told anyone this but my wife. His dad gave me this cross that I keep in my pocket every day. And it's a reminder to carry your cross. We all have a cross to carry. And Christ said, if you want to follow me, pick up your cross. And Dom I'm sure he has no idea I carry this thing with me every day. I carry my rosary with me in my backpack every day. But it's a reminder. And I was holding it here. I prayed before coming on here. Lord, just help me, help as many people as possible, help your word come through my mouth. And I know that was a really long answer, but that's
No,
because
that's a great.
it's been a long journey. It's been a very
Yeah.
long journey, and I'm still walking.
No, that's a great answer. It's funny when Ben was talking earlier and when you were saying all this. So I think I shared it once on here before too, but I had a similar experience. I put a pistol to my head. The only difference was instead of pulling the trigger, I literally feel like God gave me a vision. It was like literally, I watched a video. It was like, it was maybe a quarter of a second, but it felt like 2 minutes of my parents showing up and finding my body. And it was like, it was very vivid. Like I remember them, hearing it. I remember my mom getting the call. She walked in, like they walked in, they opened the door, they saw everything. And then like even them having to clean up where I was living afterwards. And it broke me. Like it legit broke me. And I think it's important that you shared those moments and what you just did, because it's like if we think about men, like men are struggling, a lot of men are struggling silently, but some of the greatest moments in men's life or some of the greatest friendships that are forged are during hard times, right? That's why when people come out of the military, they feel like they've never had as good of friendships ever again, right? Because you suffer together when you're in high school. It's football. When you're in the fire service, it's going through academies and just suffering bad moments together. I mean, I have guys that I went on calls with that I would still like consider great friends, even though I haven't talked to in 10+ years because we saw some just horrible things together. But I think what happens is when we get out and we stop sharing these moments right here with one another, we start slowly slipping into this false isolation that doesn't need to be there. And it's like when we have these conversations right here, it's like we're forging friendship through shared suffering. And you don't have to necessarily be going through it in that moment, or maybe you are. Maybe it's like what Tim Arrigo says, you're giving someone permission to say, hey man, I'm also struggling. It's gonna build this as you're saying, we haven't talked about it, but it's our platform's building a why for itself. It's more than us like even trying to build a why. It's really building a why for itself of men coming together and sharing their struggles to realize you're not alone, and then forging friendships together. Like if you know that you're going, if you're in this moment right now and you're like feeling borderline suicidal and they're listening to this podcast for whatever reason and they hear your story and they hear my story, they go, oh crap, I'm not alone. Like I can get through this. And it's like just a little bit of an hope injected into someone's life can do so much good. Just a little bit of hope can change someone's whole life around. And dude, you sharing that story is an injection of hope into someone. I don't know who it is. I don't even know when it's going to be, but it's going to be someone.
100%. Well, and dude, it's even on the flip side. Like you two have shared that, right? And I'm on the opposite, where I was that guy, and I still have to check myself sometimes because I have never dealt with that, so I don't understand it. So when my Marine buddies killed themselves, I was pissed, right? I was like, you are the most selfish individual. You left your daughter, you left your wife, you left your family, and I almost didn't go to my last roommate's funeral. And my wife encouraged me. She's like, Ben, you have to be there. Like those other guys are relying on you to be there, because I was kind of like the guy that people went to for problems. And I had told her, I was like, dude, I'm going through my own problems. Like I can't. And I was just mad. And the more I have grown as a man and as a man of God, more so, I'm beginning to understand, dude, sometimes one of the biggest strengths you could have is empathy and compassion. And just because I don't understand something doesn't mean that, I should act or treat or think this way about something. And so when I hear stories like you guys, like it's a reminder to me, even still now, where I do have more empathy and I do have more compassion than I did years ago, I'm still like reminded, like, oh man, like I don't understand it, but that's okay. What I can do is be there for somebody. And that can be the hope we're talking about as well, of like, if you don't understand something and somebody, just reach out and say hi. Ask them how they're doing. Like, try to be there for them. You don't need to understand it, but you can be there for them. But like George, we talked about George. He came on a couple weeks ago, and he was told us he just we went through a dark stage. And the way he described it really kind of like, I actually went home and told my wife right away. I was like, dude, I'm learning just more and more about how to hear something that is so powerful, scary, dangerous. I'm learning how to deal with these things more and more, and I feel like it's giving me a greater tool to be able to, be a resource for guys sometimes. But he said it was like, I forget how he said it, but he basically said when he was going through this episode is what he's calling
Sauna?
it. Yeah, where he was
He felt like he was in a sauna with no doors and windows, and the temperature was just slowly rising.
and he was like, I know I shouldn't be feeling this way. But I just don't know how to stop it. And so, when you're in a sauna, he's like, it's like you're just cranking the temp up and it keeps getting hotter and hotter and you're getting miserable and miserable, but there's no way out. And as he was sitting there saying that, I was like, oh my goodness, like that suffocation feeling and that hopelessness of I'm trapped and I don't know what to do. That is something anyone can resonate with. And, again, we're rambling, but dude, it's a powerful story, man. And I'm glad God gave you a second chance. And I'm glad we're able to sit here and talk about it because somebody will look at you and be like, dude, that guy's jacked. He's tough. He can fight. He can
Got it all
shoot.
figured out.
Yeah, he's got everything figured out. But you might have things figured out to a point right now, but it's a constant evolution of getting better and putting in the work. And dude, I love stories like yours, man, because guys will look at you before they know you and judge you, versus now they're like, oh my gosh, he was just like me. Now look at him.
Yeah. Well, and you said something that, really stuck out where, thinking about your Marine buddies who took their own life, like, oh, you're so selfish, you're doing all these things, which is exactly what I told you. Like, that's how I felt before I went through it. And from someone who has been in that point, and the devil is crafty. And he literally made me feel like I went through everyone in my life. My brother, my dad, my niece. I thought, and he tricked me to think that they would be better off without me.
Yeah.
And I know that you mentioned that scene that went on in your head, and it was only a second, but you saw it all play out. I went through everyone in my life, and I thought they would be better off with me. The only person who I didn't was my mom. And when I actually went to take my own life, right when I put my gun to my head, I said, I'm sorry. And there's a picture of my mom in my head. Like I can see it clear as day. I saw her. I said, I'm sorry. And then I pulled the trigger. And so yes, it is selfish to do that. But from where I was at, I was so messed up on just in the darkness and from drugs, Adderall and alcohol, that I thought the world would be better off without me. I thought everyone who's close to me would be better off without me, which is insane. I would never have met my wife. We wouldn't have our daughter right now. And while we're talking about this, something crazy about my daughter, she was born 6 weeks early. And thankfully, when we were going through this very stressful thing, I had God, I had faith. I knew that God's plan was greater than my own. And so I was comforted. And as I'm wondering why this happened, I left the hospital with my dad, who was in town, to grab lunch for, my wife and my mom and all of us. And my dad said, do you know what today is? The day she was born. And I said, no. And he said, National Suicide Awareness and Prevention Day.
Oh, shoot.
And I was like, I teared up and I was like, yeah, I wouldn't have my daughter. And tearing up now, dude,
You got me, dang it.
Our God is so good. God is so good. And thinking about that, and I am just grateful to be where I am, grateful for my family that I have. The friends that I have are absolutely incredible. And I will tell people, surround yourself with good men, with good people, with people who you look up to. If you're the smartest guy in the room, and the best looking guy and you have the most money, you're in the wrong room. Like,
Right.
so
Right.
I walk with absolute giants who I am humbled to call friends, who have done amazing things, who are much smarter than me, have more money than me. Surround yourself with good people. And I think that focus on being that best version of yourself. And a simple tool that I use to be, I always say 1% better every day. Something that I use is ask yourself what you want out of life. You know, what would be your ideal life? And then ask yourself, what would that person have to do every day? Write it down. Okay, he'd have to wake up at 5 a.m. He'd have to work out every day. He'd have to stop eating junk food. Write down whatever it is, and then go do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's that simple. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but it is very simple when you write out your plan, when you write out your goals, and adapt. Be willing to adapt, because life is going to throw a lot of stuff at you, and you just have to keep showing up. You just have to keep showing up.
I love it, man.
Dude, that plays exactly into the question that we usually ask is what's one thing that you can, do to if you're trying to be a, good dude, good dad. That's such a good one. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, and to you too, let's just roll into taking all of this and hearing all of it as I'm like digesting it. You got a lot of value in so many of your avenues of your life and the redemption like component of it, right? Like our God is so good, and his grace is just extended to us in ways that we don't understand, and even in ways that like I thought I had something figured out. Like there's that humble, gentle reminder sometimes that you're like, no, bro, like I'm still here. You still need me. But what to you, Tyler, makes a good dude and a good dad?
I mean, it's definitely not one thing, but I would say it's a man who's focused on being 1% better every single day, who is focused on being the best protector and provider possible in that order, and who his kids will look up to. Like I focus every day on laying and paving a path that I will be proud my daughter will walk down, and because the things he do on a daily basis is going to be normal. And so my daughter will grow up thinking it's normal to wake up at 5 a.m. and to work out, to do a cold plunge, to do a sauna every day. How I treat my wife, my daughter's going to look at that, and that's going to be a normal husband for her.
Yeah.
And so I want her to see me loving her mom, treating her well, how I speak to her, everything that I do. One, I want to be a good husband, but two, I want my daughter to marry someone, a man who is even better than I am.
Yes.
And
we say that, especially for girls, you have two options when you're a dad. You're either gonna, she's either gonna want to marry someone that's like you, and if you're a good man, you'll tell her to marry someone better, or she's gonna want to marry someone that's nothing like you. And it's like, okay, well, you got to wake up every morning and choose which one of those, which one of those you want to feed. It's like, feeding that wolf, it's like, which one do you want to feed into? Do you want to feed into I want her to marry a man, that treats her even better than I do, or, the opposite. So, dude, well, we know that you're on a time crunch, but you've added so much value here today. Thank you so much for coming on and just sharing what you have, because that was so impactful. I'm glad that you prayed right before this, and I was praying on the way up. I try to do that before every podcast, and dude, I know for a fact that this is gonna really impact some men's lives.
Yeah. Well, dude, the power of a story. I had no idea the podcast was going to go this way. No clue. And I think sometimes, I think sometimes too, people also have, because it's a podcast and, we're taking the time to record it and all these things, like, guys, this was not scripted. This is real life. It's three real men talking about something that we had no clue about.
That's why we don't script it.
And but the power of a story, if we take the time and we can reshape our our minds and our thoughts and how we conduct ourselves every single day to understand that every single person we encounter is a human, they are loved by God and have a story to share with you, dude, the world would be so much better. Jordan and I also say one of the big whys for this podcast is to share that, if we can retake back what it means to be a good man and a good husband and a good father, again, you wouldn't see 90% of the crap happening in the world right now. And we are trying to just get 1% better every single day. And doing things like this with you, man, hearing your story, it's one of those things where I'm just like, thank you, God, that we get to do this. Like, this is a passion project. This is a hobby for us, but it's becoming more and more of a need and a necessity to share people like your story, Tyler, and to get it out there because it is real. It's not scripted. This is your life, and this is what you're doing to get yourself 1% better. So thank you for sharing all that.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me. And for anyone out there who's struggling, or, if you haven't worked out in a while, or if there's anything I can do, like, please reach out. If you have any questions or anything like that, reach out. I'm just a dude and I would love to help you. So if you don't know who to talk to, or if you're looking at getting in shape, if you haven't worked out for a while, or if you have and you need some more help, reach out, please. I'm not just saying that. I don't say things that I don't mean. And if it's not to me, reach out to someone. But I'm just grateful that you guys gave me the opportunity to come on here and talk and share my story. I didn't know it was going down that road either, but I'm glad we did, and I hope it helps some people out there. And I'm just grateful for you guys.
100%. We're gonna have to have you come back on, and we got to really dive into some of these things if you would want to share.
Oh, for sure. I'd love to.
Yeah.
Guys, his Instagram handle is Compound Cowboy. There's also the Compound Freedom, the Compound Warrior Project. Those are three of the Instagrams that. What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Compound Cowboy.
Okay, Compound Cowboy. I'm going to link everything down below as always. BioPro is always in our show notes. So if you guys, it's always there. So go check it out. Tyler, man, thank you again.
Yeah,
we appreciate
thank you.
having you on. Dude, I look forward to all the stuff that's going to come from this. I know we're all going to do some stuff more in the future. We got to have you out here at some point to come do a speaking event for us. And yeah, man, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
All right, brother. Hey, guys, remember, again, everything's down in the show notes. And as always, be a good dude, be a good dad.